All right, welcome in everybody to episode 2 of Tiger Talk. Once again, I got my man Jason Armstrong. Jason, how we doing today?
We're doing all right. We've been better, but we're
We have
doing
been
all
better.
right. Hey, we made it through the first 5 weekends of conference play. Tough competition, but it's all downhill from here, right? So we hope.
Yeah, so we hope. That the back half of the schedule is looking a little tougher than it did a week ago,
Yeah.
but the season is not over, contrary to popular belief. The season will go on. More games will be played, and we'll kind of get into how we think those maybe could, especially this weekend, how it could play out, and we'll see what happens. But let's not bury the lead here. Tigers go on the road and get swept again on the road against a really tough Tennessee team. Kind of overall, kind of my biggest takeaway from the weekend is just like the total flip flop we saw from this team from last weekend against Vanderbilt. Last weekend against Vanderbilt, it was really the hitting was good, the pitching was bad. This weekend, the pitching was good and the hitting was bad. So, we held Tennessee to their season low in runs over a weekend. We out hit Tennessee in a couple of games this weekend, but came away with 3 L's. Looking at game one, we got Gage Jump was on the bump. Kind of tell us a little about what you saw there in game one.
Yeah. Game one, like many games we play, we're in these games and we're competing. And, if you would have told me that Gage Jump would go into, I think the fourth inning maybe or fifth inning, and we're down 3-1 when he comes out the game, I would say, yeah, I'd take that. I would take that. So the big takeaway for game one, though, to me, we did some things well. We did things well in every game this series, but the big takeaways to me were we had the bases loaded in the third inning, the eighth inning, and the ninth inning. And every single time we aren't able to capitalize. We're striking out to end the inning a couple of times and just not able to capitalize. We got guys on base, and I think the first inning of the entire series, wasn't that when Tanks got rounds third base on a what looked like a hit up the middle from Braswell and gets thrown out at third base, rounding it when it looked like it was going to get through for a single. We were going to score a run. So things right off the bat, just kind of what happens to teams who aren't used to winning. We just kept taking ourselves out of scoring opportunities. Pitching was pretty good. I mean, Gage Jump was doing pretty well, and I think that the turning point of the game, and this is something I didn't love. I thought we were going to go offensive because we all thought that Tennessee was going to score a bunch of runs and a lot of home runs, but I thought it was interesting that Jay goes with Pearson at second, which hasn't really happened much this year, and Milam's not playing. Um, and that I want to say it was the fifth inning. Yeah, it's the fifth inning where Jump wound up. He leaves the game. A couple of guys are on base. Dutton comes in, and we get a double play. And Pearson's hasn't been there many times, and he throws the ball away. They wound up scoring a run, and next thing you know, Amic's on second. So we're still, instead of having 2 outs, okay, and a guy on third, we've got 1 out and a guy on second. So then you've got a ball in the dirt. Neal throws it in the left field, and now they score a run. The next batter, so let's say we get that double play. You've got a runner on third now, 2 outs. Tears grounded out. So we're out the inning 3-1. Now, Dreiling might still lead off the next inning with a solo home run, but still, instead of being 6-1 at the end of that inning, it's 3-1 if we turn that double play. So that was, I thought, a kind of interesting move. Also, starting Neal, lefty on lefty, to catch right there. But again, I'm not, I think Jay was looking for some extra offense, and there's a lot of things that happen during a game that you can go back on, but that was really it. The whole thing to me, we had good pitching from Jump at times, got out of a few jams. I thought Dutton came in and did a really good job. It was unfortunate that when Dreiling, after we didn't turn the double play and would have gotten us out of the inning, Dutton had 2 nice pitches. Both of them were called balls, so he's 2-0, and then Dreiling hits the home run. But he rebounded the next inning. Dutton looked really good. And then we went with the freshman. We start the next inning with Moffitt, and that was impressive. He looked incredible. And just going back to the first time we saw him, he couldn't throw a strike, and he was just nothing but strikes. So, he did a good job. Cam Johnson did a good job. So there was some really promising things, and that was a real big statement. Down 6-1, it's not like the game was really close, but to roll Moffitt out there instead of going with one of the usuals that we would expect to maybe be in that situation was a statement, I think, from Jay that we're going to do things a little different. So, we clawed back and at the end of the game and got a couple of runs and put pressure on them. But I think the story was just getting the bases loaded, not being able to do anything with it. We got base runners, we got some traffic, and just couldn't capitalize. And that was the story of the game to me in game one.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look at Gage Jump. What killed him were his walks. I mean, 4 walks in 4 innings. It's not great. I mean, he ends up throwing 102 pitches over 4 innings. That's not a good pitch per inning average. And he got not only did he have a lot of walks, but then he was also on a ton of 3-ball counts. Was in a ton of full counts. But his defense really let Dutton down. I mean, Gage Jump comes off the field in the 5th. There's 2 men on, no outs, and both of those inherited runners end up scoring. And then Dutton also gives up the solo home run, and just it's just one thing after another with this team. They're kind of snake bit is kind of what it feels like, that they just, and not snake bit in that like they're just like bad things just keep happening to them, but they're expecting the bad thing. It feels like this team is just waiting for the other shoe to drop when it's gonna happen, and they just haven't performed well. And then you look at game 2, and man, you got Holman against against Beam, and man, that was a pitching matchup that really delivered. Beam and Holman, they battled it out. And Holman ends up going 5 2/3 of 1 run, 2-run ball. He comes out of the game and it's 2-1. But you're in a position to win that game. I mean, you got Griffin Herring, he comes in, allows another run, on a solo shot from Amick in the 8th. But other than that, that's the only run that that Tennessee that Herring allows. But it's just the offense just can't do anything either. Drew Beam ends up going 6 2/3, and then they go, Banky, and then Snead comes in for the last 2 innings and gets the 9-out save. excuse me, 6 out save. He goes 2 innings, so 6 out save. It's just, man, it's just one thing after another. What'd you see in game two?
Well, number one, we out hit Tennessee 9-5 and pitched incredibly well. And I'm going to tell you, when this happened, I stood up and started yelling, and my wife's going, "What's wrong?" The SEC network flashes a graphic on the screen, no hitter alert. I mean, what are we doing? You can't do that. They were responsible. You can't do that. Up until that point, he's faced 20 batters and not given up a hit. They flashed that graphic. I lost my mind. My wife tells me to settle down. It doesn't matter. Guess what happens? The next two batters got a hit, right? So he goes 20 batters, doesn't give up a hit. They flash the graphic, no hitter alert. We give up 2 hits. You know, who's, I mean,
Baseball, man.
I don't know, but so I'm blaming the SEC network. But anyway, he pitched great. He came back, got a strikeout right there before Herring came in, and he threw that slider that usually doesn't get hit, and the guy was just sitting on it, got a good hit. But again, we pitched very, very well in that game. At one point, we were out hitting Tennessee 8-1. Now listen to this. This is the story of your game right here. Offensively, you had a runner in scoring position in the first inning, the second inning, the third inning, the fourth inning, the fifth inning, the seventh inning, and in the ninth inning, you got a 1-out single from Pearson. So the tying run is at the plate with 1 out and the guy on first, and we don't capitalize. But that every one of those innings, we've got runners in scoring position. And what's even worse is that in the first inning, we've got first and second with 1 out. Second inning, we've got second and thirds, no outs. Third inning, first and second, 1 out. I mean, we couldn't, even more so than game one, where we had some innings where we had bases loaded. And game two, we were all over them. We had guys on the bases everywhere and just could not get that one hit, just one hit. And I thought we pitched really well. I thought we battled. I mean, if you're out hitting a team like that 8-1, I mean, that's a good job. That offense was scrapping. And again, it's just timely hitting. And people used to say this last year, like one of the things that LSU wasn't good at is we'd leave base runners on, and I remember Jay used to talk about, he said, look, the fact that you get them on base is good. You know, it's so you can't leave runners on base if you don't get them on. And I think it's just a numbers thing. They're just not happening right now. I think at some point, the law of averages, you'll start getting hits in those situations. It's not like they're not trying to get hits with runners in position. I do think that I see a lot of it, the hitters taking strikes early in the count, getting behind, and then having to fight for your life. And I know sometimes the game plan is to see a lot of pitches, but Tennessee was they're strike throwers. They were throwing strikes. So there was a few times where we'd get in there and it's like, man, come on, jump on this pitch. And man, we'd let, whether it was Travinsky, Brown, Jones, and they'd get ahead, and then you're fighting for your life, you know. Those pitchers, and this isn't a slight on Tennessee, but from what we're used to seeing, they were okay, but it wasn't like we were seeing some elite, you know, high draft prospects. Now Beam is, but we couldn't get anybody in. We couldn't score anybody, and so that was frustrating. But again, it was another one of those games where you're right there. I mean, you're in the game. You're competing with the number 4 team in the nation and out hitting them and really out pitching them to a certain extent, and you wind up dropping the game. So that one really hurt.
Yeah, I think one of the good news is that if this is the rotation they're going to go with, if they're going to try and go left, right, left with their starting rotation and go Jump, Holman, Ackenhausen, I guess. I think Ackenhausen. We'll talk about Game 3 in just a second, but I think Ackenhausen performed well enough that he's earned another chance to be the Sunday starter next weekend. So if they want to go left, right, left in the starting rotation, um, there's not a lot of Drew Beams pitching number 2, in the SEC. So I think having Holman go against whoever, I mean, you're going to have a pitching advantage against whoever you go up against. I mean, even if he's pitching Friday night, the way the rest of your schedule is, he's going to have an advantage over anybody except for maybe Ryan Prager at A&M.
Well, Prager usually pitches Friday night, so that would be Holman against Tanner Jones, and so you look at A&M, Auburn, Alabama. I mean, we're going to have an advantage on Game 2 for the remainder of the year. Now, the key is, in some of those situations, we need 3, but we got to, win the series. And so, and I think Jump can do that. But like you said, for Game 3, Ackenhausen, I don't know that I love that move when I saw that listed, honestly, because my whole thing with Ackenhausen is like, he's good in spurts, but if you leave him in too long, that's when you start to see guys getting to him. And I honestly didn't see a whole lot different out of him. He was very good, but he was still 91. He didn't look a whole lot different than he did against Vanderbilt, but for whatever reason, those Tennessee hitters they really couldn't get to him. It was kind of puzzling. He moved the ball around inside, through his changeup, through it. He did a good job keeping him off balance, but he gave us a great start. I mean, you can't ask for more than the position that he puts you in. So, it was tied 2-2 entering the 6th inning in Game 3, 2-2. So we pitched again. And now the Game 3, the box score is not going to look great, but I think we pitched a lot better than the box score is going to look, because, when we made the move to bring Guidry in right there, I mean, that's when they kind of got a good lead on us. I thought Guidry, I thought that Jay made great pitching moves. It's easy to go back and say, hey, I would have probably went with somebody else against Christian Moore. He had him 2 strikes. But one thing about Guidry that's strange to me is that his repertoire looks different. Like, everything he threw looked like a cut fastball. He threw a couple of fastballs maybe, but it's not that curveball that he was throwing last year, Alex. If you remember what he was throwing against South Carolina and against Florida last year, I mean, it had a big bend in it. And now he's going to that cut fastball, kind of like Christian Little threw a lot last year, where it's very subtle. It almost looks like a fastball, but it's only 83, 84, 82 maybe. And it had some guys fooled. You could see that because they were taking pitches, but I don't know where that big breaking ball would happen to it. It's like one pitch. That's it. And see, Christian Moore has seen a lot of Gavin Guidry. And so, Guidry was able to get Cal Stark, but Christian Moore, if he's too good of a hitter to go in there with one pitch. And, the one that he threw that he hit out, I mean, it was low in the zone, but it was that same pitch that I think he had just gotten a couple of looks at, So he puts him way ahead. And I think that we battled back. I mean, we got another home run from Tommy Tank. So we're down 2. Again, Moffitt, Cam Johnson, both of them did well again. And I liked Bucknam right there. And Bucknam did a good job because he didn't miss badly at all. And his fastball was nice, like 93, 94. And on that pop-up, that again, that looks bad on, as far as the earned runs that LSU gave up. But that was a pop-up. that dropped, and they scored 2 runs. So you're in a 6-4 game. Bucknam gets the guy out front on a breaking ball, pop up, and we're pitching great at this point. We're pitching really well once again, and that ball falls. Kling went back and misjudged it, and I know the wind was bad. So anyway, they go up. I think at that point went up 4, and so yeah, it didn't look great on the box score, but I thought we pitched well outside of the Guidry giving up the home run, and I'm sure he'd like that pitch back, and I feel bad for Guidry. But everybody else pitched really well, don't you think?
Well, I think Cade Anderson struggled a little bit, towards the late end of the game. He ends up facing what was it? Let me look back here at the box score here. He faced 7 batters. He gave up 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. He's kind of scuffled a little bit against SEC hitting, which, I mean, he's a freshman. There's no, but he's a really good pitcher and got a really, bright future. But yeah, I mean, Cade Anderson scuffled a little bit, and Guidry, like you said, just kind of, I mean, he's given up a lot of home runs this year. But I think the biggest takeaways for me for the weekend were the 3 guys who you hadn't seen much of on the weekend. Cam Johnson, you've seen a little bit more than Moffitt and Dutton, but Moffitt, Dutton, and Johnson coming out of the bullpen could be 3 guys that you can count on, moving forward to get you some really good outs. All 3 of them showed 3 pitches for strikes. Dutton actually showed 4 pitches for strikes. But Moffitt and Johnson both had 3 pitches for strikes. I mean, Moffitt was up to 99 on his second outing on Sunday. And so his second outing of the weekend, and he's still throwing gas. And then he's got a changeup that he'll bust inside to righties, and then the slider he'll throw inside to lefties. I think those are some real weapons. And so I think that moving forward, those are some guys that you can count on in this bullpen. And if the Tigers are able to make some miraculous turnaround and get to the NCAA tournament, you're going to look back on this weekend and say, like, the emergence of those 3 guys are going to be, I think, what really propels this team to, if they are going to make the comeback, it's going to be in large part because of those 3 guys being able to stabilize the bullpen.
Absolutely. I think you do need to add Cade Anderson. I'm going to tell you why. Anderson came in, okay, in the 7th inning. He gave up the first pitch, missile off of Blake Burke that hit the wall. They intentionally walked Amick, and then he struck out Tears, and it was nasty stuff. He made quick work out of him, got to 0-2 and struck him out. I think it was a high fastball. The next inning, he comes out, and this is what I mean by the box scores don't look great, but he strikes out Dreiling, and then Curley, lined out. So he's got 2 outs right off the bat, and then gets to 2 strike on Inslee. Inslee gets a single. Then they pinch hit that guy who hasn't played much at all, and it was like a 20 pitch at bat that the guy walks. So, they've got first and second right there. So the second inning that Anderson's out there, he gives up a single, and then the guy has a really good at bat and walks. And that's when Bucknam comes in and gives up a pop-up. So Anderson has charged those 2 runs, but he didn't give up those 2 runs. I mean, it wasn't like he went out there and got hit around. I thought he looked good. He was up to 95. His breaking ball looked nice. So I really do. I think Moffitt, Cam Johnson, I think Dutton, obviously, we've been wanting more of him, but I think you got to throw Anderson in there. And I also like Bucknam. I do. I think he looked good. He looked poised out there, and he's really come a long way with his breaking ball. I mean, he can land it for a strike. So here's the good news. And what we've done up until this point, we haven't seen those guys out there really. We haven't. And to go, it's, and that was against the best offense in the country, let's face it. And we still were able with those guys throwing to limit their production. We haven't had those guys all year. So that was something new that we did. I mean, we're used to seeing Lore and Hurd and Christian Little and whoever else, and so that was a completely different direction, and that's what gives me a lot of confidence, because we can take away those positives from this series. It's not like we went out there, Alex, and we're never in the game and we got destroyed. Last week we sat on here and we were worried about our pitching, and you know that I feel better about our hitting coming around against Missouri, Auburn, A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama. You know, now that our pitching's doing well, than if it was the other way around. So I do. I think that's going to be, like you said, we're going to look back on that. Really, all the young guys. Milam really had a coming out series. Larson is here to stay. Um, I mean, he's really something. So, and I think they showed some leadership too, because there were some times when, look, we can't, we're not going to get far without Tanks or Travinsky, and they both stepped up when we needed them. But there was a little spurt there within, 2 innings back to back where Tanks loafed it down the first, and the guy threw the ball way up high. He might have been safe. And then Travinsky, I don't really know what he was doing, but didn't slide in the second. And, that wasn't a great look. But then we've got Larson getting picked off and bussing it, and like a hustle play, gets safe at second, and Milam over there, executing hit and run. So I think we had a lot of young guys really make strides this weekend. But like you said, the biggest positive was definitely Moffitt and Cam John, these young pitchers, because I think we're going to see a whole lot of them going forward. And now I don't know. I mean, what do you do with guys like Lore um, and Little and Hurd, and because you don't want those. These are veteran guys that you don't want them to, to pack it in, and you still want to be able to use them. And I think that they do have. I mean, I think Hurd could still be very good for us. I think that in the right spot, Little has nasty stuff. Lore, I mean, he's a weird throwing lefty. I mean, he can be effective. So I think, in the right spot, those guys can still do us some good. But yeah, we're going to lean on these guys that we saw this weekend. I would like to see Uloa a little bit. I don't, I'm surprised we didn't see any of him even in the midweek. I would like to see him because I thought that there was, for example, that against Christian Moore, that would have been a great time to bring another righty in to face Moore. Moore knows what Guidry's got, and I don't know what righty, unless it's Thatcher Hurd. Like, I don't know somebody that would be a new look right there that's right-handed. But Uloa seems like he could be somebody to fill a void. For a right-hander coming out the pen. So I hope we see him tomorrow night.
I have a theory about Ulloa. I don't have anything to back this up. I have not heard anything. There's nothing official, nothing even unofficial that I've heard. But my theory is he's hurt. Just because we haven't seen him for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And he was doing so well before. So I think he might be injured. I hate to speculate about that, but
You think?
yeah, I mean, I think it's like I think it's a similar situation what we saw what happened with Cade Woods, right? We see Cade Woods, the second game of the year, and then we don't see him again until this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
This past week in the midweek game, and he throws I think he might have faced one batter. So that he was definitely injured, and so I think Ulloa is kind of the same deal. Jay Johnson doesn't like talking about injuries.
Yeah.
So he's probably not gonna come out and say it. Even if asked about it, he may not come out and directly say he's hurt. But that is just my speculation, my theory. Got no hard evidence on that, but that's just what I think. And starting to look kind of forward. We got Missouri coming up this weekend. We're going to Como, um, which a couple weeks ago looked like, man, that was going to be an easy sweep. But, now Missouri's kind of figuring some things out. I mean, I think, they sweep Florida, which I think is kind of half Missouri figuring some things out and Florida losing some things. Because I think Florida's, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Florida. Supremely talented team and just can't get anything figured out. So I don't know what's going on with Florida. So that series may say more about Florida than it does about Missouri, but we'll see. We're gonna go up there, and certainly nothing's guaranteed right now with this LSU team. So just got to win the series, and if you can sweep, man, that would
Yeah.
be that puts us right back in a great. If you can
Yeah.
sweep this weekend, that puts us right back in a great spot. But let's not get ahead of ourselves with talking sweeps right now. I mean,
Mhm.
if you look at the standings, LSU is 3-12, Mizzou is 5-10, which is where I was kind of hoping LSU would kind of end up after this weekend. But as far as record wise, but it's not where we ended up. We got 3-12. Mizzou's 5-10, like I said. And if you look at statistically in SEC play, LSU is hitting 250, which is good for 11th in the SEC. Mizzou's hitting 203, dead last in the SEC. And if you
Mhm.
look at ERA, LSU with an ERA of 7.45, which is again good for 11th in the SEC. But Mizzou with an ERA of 5.45, so their pitching, is a little bit on paper a little bit better, but we did see what the young guys can do. So maybe, hopefully, these young guys can take advantage of a Mizzou offense that's just not very good. And that
Mhm.
that's probably one area where LSU has an advantage. So, what do you see from these Missouri Tigers?
I think they're just, they play always play tough at home, but I mean they don't have the Luke Mans and the Dalton Bargos that they had last year, guys that could really put the ball out the yard, and um, they don't really have anybody like that. I mean, this is a team that um, I think they believe in their coach, and they play hard, but talent wise, this is a mismatch, um, and I still think that when people talk about, well, we're 10th in hitting and we're 11th in ERA, you also have to keep in mind who we were playing. I mean, if you look at our five opponents, and I had this pulled up earlier, and you just look at where our opponents, like look at everybody we played and where they rank in just batting average out of the 14 teams. And then look at Arkansas, the teams they played, where those teams rank in batting average. It's night and day. We face some of the teams in the top half of the conference, where Arkansas is facing the bottom half. And I'm just saying Arkansas because that's one of the better teams. And so who you played matters. And I do think that when we start playing teams like Missouri, we can start having success. I've been saying this for weeks now, but if we play against Missouri like we played against Tennessee, it's not even going to be close. We played against Missouri like we played against Arkansas, and that goes for when we play Auburn and we play Ole Miss. And so, again, I I know I'm an optimist, and the fat lady ain't saying yet, and so I still think that we can compete with anybody. We haven't learned how to win yet consistently, um, but I do. I like what we have going into Missouri, and I think that game one's going to be big because it feels like it's been a while since we won a conference game, and so that first game, just really pouncing on them and getting some confidence. That's what we need, because you start reeling off some wins. And if I asked you, Alex, we need wins. What two teams would you like to play the next 2 weekends? Who would it be?
Mizzou and Auburn.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is kind of, I mean, this is what we couldn't ask for two more winnable series, I guess, on paper, but also talent wise. And I know you can say, well, we haven't beat anybody, but again, it goes back to competition. And so, we can't, you got to be careful worrying about how many games we got to win to get in the tournament. And right now, I'm sure that's the message from Jay to his team is like one game because we can really go there this weekend, play well, and turn this thing around. I mean, in a matter of one weekend, you can see a team's whole season change. Look what Missouri sweeping Florida did. Look what South Carolina. South Carolina was dead. They won a series against Florida, and now they're back in the mix, right? I mean, and so this happens all the time where you can see. Look at Alabama. Alabama was like, man, they really need a win. They win a series against Arkansas, and now it's like, well, hey, maybe Alabama can win this weekend. I think they got A&M coming in, so a lot can change in one series, and you know, we just need a bunch of series. But it starts with this weekend, and it starts with going out there and having some belief and just not trying to do too much, just staying within yourselves because you got the talent, you got the coaching to be able to go down there and make it happen. And so I, I like our chances going this weekend. We definitely need two. And so I don't know. I don't want to say we're going to sweep anybody at this point, but um, I'm excited to go down there and play somebody that we should beat.
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly on paper, you are the better team, but on paper and grass are two different things. So, and with this team right now, having not won a series, just go up there, get a couple of wins, get some confidence, and let's move forward and just see what happens. The rest of the season. Baseball is a funny game. You know, everybody in 2008, everybody thought LSU was dead in the water in the SEC. Then they rattle off, 26 wins in a row, and make it to super regional that year. I'm not saying this team's going to do that, but we're kind of at the point where it's like it's baseball and weird things happen.
Yeah,
And
and we don't need to win, 15 in a row. That's the thing. Is if we were sitting here trying to piece together, okay, we got to go play, you know, Kentucky, and then we got to go, on the road and play A&M and get it. That's not what we have in front of us. We just went over the series that we have in front of us, and A&M comes to us, and so we're going to have to do something that people might not have been expecting, whether it's win a series against A&M or sweep a series that maybe we weren't supposed to sweep at Alabama or whatever. We're going to have to do something that wasn't what everyone figured we were going to do, but that's okay because up to now we've 5 weeks in a row not done what people expected us to do. Like at some point, okay, I refuse to believe this team is that bad that they're just not going to at some point get on track. And again, and I'm just going off of watching them play. I mean, you watch them play against Tennessee that way, and you can't help but to go, these guys aren't that bad. I wish they'd just lose 20-0 and I could just, say, oh, that's it. That's a wrap. But man, they keep pulling me back in.
yeah,
Well, we might be here 3-25, 24. There's a chance. There's a chance.
so you're telling me there's a chance.
Oh man, good Lord. But no, it was look, we lost. The weekend didn't go great, but there are definitely Jay Johnson is trying things, and there's a line between being desperate. Listen, I would like to see us. I think it's becoming clear the lineup that we should kind of go with. Um, I would like to see us kind of settle on that. And I do look. I think Pearson is one of the guys that should really be in there, because he's done it before. And the last couple of years, I wasn't the biggest Pearson fan. I always wanted to see Joe Bear in there, and um, but Pearson always did well. And now this year, I think he just needs to stay in there because he's capable. He really is. And so I'd like to see us kind of settle, but I give it to Jay, man. He's trying things, and um, we're not just going out there hoping that things are going to be different. We're trying some things. So those guys aren't going to give up.
Yeah, talking about the lineup, I'm gonna disagree with you on Pearson. I think our best outfield right now is Larson, Kling, and Bingham. I think Kling turned in some
No,
pretty
that's
good
what I
innings.
want. I want Pearson to DH, and I want
Ah,
Travinsky to catch. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
Pearson. I mean, just because he's got a track record. I mean, what are we gonna? Oh, I mean, are we expecting, for example, are we expecting, to Travinsky to catch, and then I mean the DH and Neil to catch and do something? And I like Neil, but to do something he's never done before, or Jake Brown to do, or Ethan Fry, like Pearson is he's done it. And again, and I just really believe that it's hard um when you're in and out and in and out. I mean, this is third year. Like, I like to see him, be given a weekend and just say, "Hey, man, you're in. Go do it." And just because he's going to come through. I mean, he had a nice man that was so close to being in the gap in one of those games, and Inslee made an incredible catch all the way at the wall. Um, but anyway, yeah, I don't I like the outfield you just said, because Larson's been really good. Bingham, Kling, I like all of them. I think though that d- right now we need offense, and so I do like Travinsky catching and then being able to DH Pearson.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest things, like you said, we needed consistency. I mean, I
Hmm.
I'd have to go back and double check, but I literally don't think we have seen the exact same lineup twice at all this season. I mean, every day it is a different lineup,
Hmm.
and it's hard to find any consistency when you're doing that.
Yeah,
So, we'll see. Jay certainly has forgotten more about baseball than I know. So I'm sure he's gonna get it figured out because he's grinding it out, trying to figure it out. But um, we'll see how this weekend goes. But you can be sure that next Monday you and I'll be right here again
yeah,
talking about whatever happened
that's
against
right,
Missouri.
man.
Hopefully, we're talking about a series win. Maybe outside shot at a sweep. I don't know. Maybe we call in
Heck
the kid
yeah.
from Angels in the outfield, get him in the dugout, flapping his arms, and maybe we'll see what happens.
Well, you are starting to see this though, Alex. Is that, and I knew this would happen. Just by looking at the schedule, you're starting to see teams that are starting to play tougher opponents, things start to shake a little bit. I mean, you're seeing it with Florida, you're seeing it with Arkansas. They're looking human now, and their schedule is going to get tougher. Kentucky's schedule is going to get tougher. So you're going to see it, up to this point, we look like we're the ones that are in the cellar and we stink and everybody else is up on a high, but that's going to start to shift. And you're going to start to really see that parity in the SEC as some of these schedules start to either get harder or get a little bit easier down the stretch. So um, I'm excited. I'm excited about the next 15 conference games. And look, they really can't go that much worse, right? So regardless, we're gonna improve. Now, we're not just gonna settle for winning though a few more games. We want to really make a dent in this thing, and it starts against my alma mater, the UNO Privateers, tomorrow night. So
Yes,
think
it
this is
does. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow night. We'll see how it goes this weekend, and you guys can catch us back right here, Monday night, Tuesday morning, both on the YouTube and on Spotify, all the podcast channels. Make sure you subscribe up to the CBC YouTube channel and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate it, Jason. Always good talking to you, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Go Tigers.